welcome back to another SALT video. We thought we'd deal with an issue this afternoon that is actually quite contentious in society for many reasons, and that is the issue of surrogacy. It's an issue which confuses a lot of people because it's based on compassion, and we're told as Christians to be compassionate towards others, and yet there are a lot of issues involved in surrogacy that cause a lot of concern. What are some of those, Jenny?
Well, one of the things is that although people may think it's just for a married couple who can't have a family to help them out by enabling somebody to have a child for them and give it to them, but over the years that's been extended to include heterosexual de facto couples and also particularly homosexual couples and single women. And they've been really the activists behind getting the laws changed around Australia.
So what you're saying is that, like most of the issues we deal with today, there is a slippery slope, and these things might start off with what appear to be good intentions but have obviously bad consequences.
That's right. Back in 2009 there was a national inquiry held at the federal level by the Standing Committee of Attorneys General, and what they did then was to look at what the surrogacy laws were around Australia and to look at whether they should be perhaps made all the same so that people had the same laws in each state.
So some states were by then legalising surrogacy?
That's right. We had Western Australia, New South Wales and the ACT had already legalised some form of surrogacy. And since then we've actually seen a number of states actually change the laws. We've had Victoria and Queensland have changed the laws, allowing surrogacy for heterosexual, homosexual couples and for single women. In South Australia in 2009 the law was changed, but only to allow heterosexual couples to have surrogacy.
So we're not just talking here about a husband and wife who have difficulty having a pregnancy, but we're talking about the fact that all sorts of other types of relationship will inevitably use the facility of surrogacy.
That's right. And in particular in Tasmania we've got the same bill actually being discussed at the present time, with the debate in the Legislative Council due to commence sometime after the 24th of May. And they're actually proposing the same thing, heterosexual, homosexual couples and for single women to have surrogacy as well.
So what we're really talking about is what starts off as a very compassionate thing, supposedly between just a husband and wife, using another woman to incubate their child, to something which allows parents who have no natural ability to become parents to do so. Surely that is where we really have to ask, should we have even started in the first place?
Well, I think that's right, and we need to think about the child, because really the child is the person we should be considering most. And having surrogacy means that a child doesn't have the ability to be raised by their biological mother and father. And if in the cases where they do use the genetic material of both the husband and wife, they've still got the birth mother who's actually carried the child to term and given birth to the child, really not involved, and the child doesn't have that maternal relationship with that woman.
Now recently there was a case highlighted in the media where a mother was a surrogate mother with her own egg for a homosexual couple. What were the outcomes of that?
Well, it's actually just been reported this week, and the biological mother is called Rosie, and she did say that using her own egg meant that she had an even more maternal attraction to her child. But she actually gave birth to a boy, Connor Harris, and his parents, a homosexual couple, apparently very happy about the child, but they don't want a third parent involved. And yet Rosie, who's not her real name, but when she had the child she said there'd been nothing but heartache and regret. As soon as the baby was born, it all changed, she said. I was crying in hospital when he was having his first bath. I couldn't watch. I thought, what the hell have I done? I never thought having a child and giving him away would make me feel like this. I regret everything. I don't regret Connor, the baby, but I regret the decision very much. I just wish I'd never done it.
So we see here a situation where the birth mother was also the egg donor, basically, and of course there was that very intricate thing. But even when it's an egg supplied by a fourth party sometimes, and the woman carries the baby, is there not some infinite characteristic that is part of the child, part of the mother, that will always be there?
Well, I think it's part of carrying the child. You know, the woman has actually carried the child throughout the pregnancy and feels a real attraction to that. And it has been difficult. Many of the surrogacy laws actually leave a window of opportunity for the mother to say, look, actually, I feel uncomfortable about handing the child over. But of course, that raises a whole lot of legal problems, because if the genetic material of the child doesn't belong to the mother, then you've got a whole lot of legal wrangles over what should happen to the child.
So we're really, in that case, talking about human incubators. But you see, the problem with this situation is that there are always those circumstances which are going to be detrimental to the child, no matter how this end result child is achieved. With surrogacy, there's always more than two people involved. There are attachments that are going to be broken. Children often don't know their biological parents. There's one other factor that I think we as Christians ought to really consider in this issue, and that is that the whole thing is based on the IVF program, which has already used probably thousands and thousands of babies that have been deliberately killed in order to experiment. And this raises huge ethical concerns about the whole issue of surrogacy. And I think we need to think very carefully about the things that have gone on before, not just the current situation. Compassion can be like fire, a very good servant but a very bad master. And if we simply make decisions based on compassion, we can often miss a lot of the fine detail that God has already given us words about. We see in the Bible so many times that God opened and closed wombs, even with Abraham and his wife, an old couple who never thought they could have a child. God could achieve the impossible. If we were only to rely on God more and our own human ingenuity less, then maybe the outcomes would be better for everybody. In this case, certainly the outcome would be a lot better for the child.
Well, that's right, and it really gets back to the natural family. Genesis shows us that God created man and woman. He put them together in a family and then told them to be fruitful and to multiply, but we're to do that in God's way, not according to the ways of the world.
So what we suggest is that Christians ought to look very, very carefully at this issue of surrogacy, and in fact we would suggest you write to your MPs in any state wherever this is being discussed and say, no, this is not in the best interests of the child who is a product of this social experiment, and therefore we say no to surrogacy. See you next time.